Hello. Welcome to my channel. Today's topic is least common denominator, also known as LCD. How do you find least common denominator? First, you must identify your denominators. If your denominators are different, but they must be alike to solve a problem, then you must find a least common denominator to make them alike. So the first thing you must do is list multiples for each denominator until you find one that is the same, and that is your least common denominator. Now, let's look at some example problems. Our first two fractions are 1/4 and 5/6. Well, those are two different denominators, but if I needed to add or subtract these two fractions, I must have the same denominator in order to do that. So I must find a common denominator between 4 and 6. So I will list multiples for 4 and 6. My multiples of 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Now I will list some multiples of 6 until I see one that is just alike as in the multiples of 4. So my multiples of 6 are 6, 12, and I can actually stop right there because now I see that we have a common multiple of 12 between 4 and 6. So 12 is my least common denominator for 4 and 6. Now let's look at the fractions 2/3 and 3/5. 2/3 has a denominator of 3 and 3/5 has a denominator of 5. 3 and 5 are two different numbers. So those are two different denominators. But if I needed to add or subtract these fractions, I must have the same denominator. So I must find a common denominator between 3 and 5. So I will begin with writing multiples for 3. Multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Now, let's write some of the multiples of 5 until we can find a matching number as we did for our previous problem. Our multiples of 5 are 5, 10, 15, and we can actually stop right there because 3 and 5 both have a multiple of 15. So the lowest common denominator for 3 and 5 is 15. It's practice time. So let's look at our fractions that we have. Our first set of fractions are 4/9 and 1/12. 9 and 12 are two different denominators, so we must look at multiples for 9 and 12 until we can find a common denominator. As I list my multiples of 9, my multiples are 9, 18, 27, 36, and 45. We're going to stop there. And now we're going to start writing some of our multiples of 12 to see if we can find a common multiple. As I list my multiples of 12, my multiples of 12 are 12, 24, 36, and actually we can stop right there because 9 and 12 both have a multiple of 36. The lowest common denominator between 9 and 12 is 36. My next two fractions are 1/2 and 3/4. Well, 1/2 has a denominator of 2, and 3/4 has a denominator of 4. 2 and 4 are two different denominators, and if I must have them alike, I need to find a least common denominator. As I write down my multiples of 2, I have 2 and 4, and I can stop right there because as I list my multiples of 4, the first multiple of 4 is 4. So the least common denominator for 2 and 4 is 4. Now let's look at our last fraction. 3/8 and 1/6. 8 and 6 are two different numbers. So I must find a common denominator for 8 and 6. I will start by listing my multiples of 8. My multiples of 8 are 8, 16, 24, 32. I'll stop there and then I'll start listing some multiples of 6. My multiples of 6 are 6, 12, 18, 24, and I can stop right there because now I have found a common multiple between 8 and 6, which is 24. So the least common denominator between 8 and 6 is 24. Hopefully, the least common denominator has become an easier task for you. Thanks for watching. Until next time.